Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. If I remember correctly, we were here. It was something that I forgot to talk about. Everyone can hear me and see the slides, right? Everything's okay? Hopefully. So one thing that I forgot to talk about last time was that so you can have this course either with credits or without them. Like if you want to just listen to it, that's great and fine and okay as well. And on the other hand, you can also get credits for it. And the assignment is a 10 to 45-minute talk or presentation of a subject of your choice for the rest of the class. So it's 10 to 45 minutes to allow anyone who feels less confident or more insecure, or I don't know, doesn't like public speech, to be able to do it very short. But if you want to really give a comprehensive survey of a subject and talk about interesting issues for a longer time, that's also great. I am legally obliged to allow for a test if any of you wishes so. So if anyone wants to do a test instead of the assignment and still get credits, that's okay as well. Just let me know because I will have to compose that test for you. And I think that's it. Any questions or something? Anything? Nothing. Okay, so we can go back to the nice exercise of looking at the different consonants in Semitic languages. We're not already talking about phonology or phonetics or sounds, just as one of the general features that distinguish, or that at least are shared by Semitic languages, are certain consonants or certain consonant groups, as Kilian said. Triads are the most conspicuous or characteristic feature in the consonant banks or inventories of Semitic languages. So does everyone understand this table or understand what it represents? Just the list of sounds, the inventory of sounds, or certain kinds of sounds, consonants other than vowels, that this language has. Once again, they're divided both by the place of articulation and the manner of articulation, the places in the columns and the manner in the rows. Yes, Matthew, you can just talk, ask.
Okay, so I was wondering if you could pronounce the lateral approximant, I think, because I hear it, I've heard it like online, other places, but just
You
want
mean
to
the lateral
have a
fricative
better
or the
sense of what it,
lateral approximant?
no, the approximant, so the, no, sorry, not the L, I guess it should be the lateral fricative, yeah.
Yes, the fricative.
Or,
Yes, that is quite
okay.
yeah, the fricative sa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The nice reference I give for anyone who knows a little bit of modern Israeli music is the Shin of Yoni Bloch, but if you don't know, that's also okay. Anyway, yeah, sha. It is a common lisp, I think, to pronounce that instead of S, or like not very common, but it is a lisp. It does exist. So sha, that's this sound. Anything else? Any other question or remark?
Sorry, could I ask a question about moving on from the lateral fricative?
Of course.
Yeah. What is the evidence for this type of phonetics for this particular consonant?
Oh, okay. So
if it's too complicated of an issue, No worries.
It's
I've always been
well,
curious about this.
it is too complicated for an issue, but it's not your fault. It's kind of theirs. But there is a lot of evidence, and it's a long thing to talk about. If you want, you can start from the article Sibilants in Old Babylonian something cuneiform letters. I don't know. Sibilants in Old Babylonian by Streck from 2006. I just recently wrote a dissertation involving a lot of this topic, so I have a lot to say about this, but this would not be the right place to do so. But if you want to talk about it, that's also okay.
Thank you for the literature suggestion. That's then I can look it up.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. I don't remember the full name of that, but it's long. Anyway, just making sure that everything is clear. There is something else that I forgot to mention, and it can also be seen in this table. I constantly use different types of transcription methods. I don't do it because I believe in using them, but I want to make you used to seeing all of them because you will see all of them. And IPA, which is the most accurate and probably the best method to do this, to render sounds, you will see the least. So if you look at transcriptions of Semitic languages, some of these signs are very, very common, like the H with the, whatever you call it, the little hook on the bottom, that's the Ch, that's the uvular fricative. And that's pretty much what we reconstruct for Akkadian based on modern South Arabian and Arabic. And I also use this Q for the emphatic velar stop, which in Akkadian we reconstruct as an ejective K, just like Ethiopic, Ethio-Semitic, and modern South Arabian, but it is commonly rendered as Q because of different transcriptional conventions. Anything else? Is there any other question before we look at the consonantal inventory of another language and we compare and see what is in common and what is different? Nothing? Okay. So this is the reconstructed consonant inventory of Phoenician. It's kind of similar to Akkadian. That's why I chose to show it next. So just like Akkadian, a lot of these things merge, like the interdentals are lost and the laterals, or at least the lateral emphatic. So we'll see that. So anyway, we have these Samech and Shin, Tzadi, and Zain. That's the sibilant. Well, and it is usually considered like the trio is Samech, Tzadi, Zain, just like in Akkadian, and Shin is separate. But pretty much everything else is the same, except that the gutturals are also preserved. So Het, Ein, Hey, at least some of them. And everything else is pretty much the same. Any question about that? Of course, this is reconstructed, we don't know. And just to show some languages with a little richer consonantal inventory, this is the reconstructed one for really ancient Ge'ez, like really early one inscriptions of Ge'ez at the time where the when the script was not yet with vowels, and that when these signs, the signs for the laterals, were used as differentiated from the signs for the medial sibilants. Today, these signs both exist and are both used regularly, but they sound just the same. So they have a sign for Samech, and they have a sign for Sin, but they pronounce them the same, and they use them not always etymologically correct, just like Hebrew, if you have noticed that. So some of the things that are different, I remember that someone asked about South Semitic in the last class, and one of the interesting aerial features of South Semitic is that the original P has shifted to F. So this is a feature of Ethio-Semitic, modern South Arabian, and Old South Arabian, almost certainly, and Old North Arabian, and also Arabic. So in all of these languages, there was a shift of p to f, the p that we know from Akkadian or from the other languages. It's kind of like the Spirantization process that happened in Hebrew and Aramaic, what we call Beged Kefet, but this is just for pay and everywhere, not in some environments. Sorry, that was a little complicated. Yes, sorry?
So, so the chi or the H rocker, that's supposed to be a pharyngeal fricative or a velar.
Yeah,
Right,
so
the H rocker or
I
the
will, yeah, I will shortly. Okay, so these stops are velar, and these fricatives, so these ones are uvular fricatives, like the kha, both in Arabic and also in modern Hebrew, is a uvular fricative, and the other ones, the second two, those are the pharyngeal fricatives, or you can call them also approximant. It doesn't really matter. There's no difference in the pharynx. So anyway, some of the other interesting things about Ge'ez, that it does have an emphatic P. So there is no P, or it's kind of wrong to say there is no P at all, but because there is P, but only for loan words, and it's a very rare sound. But a much more common sound is the adjective P. It also exists mostly in loan words, but not exclusively. Very interesting. Then we have the t, t, da, t, s, t, z, that's pretty much the same. And in the dorsals, we have an interesting feature, another interesting feature, which is the what we call labial velars or labialized velar stops, and also a labialized uvular fricative. Qua, qua, gua, and khua. These do not exist outside Ethio-Semitic, or are not attested at all outside Ethio-Semitic, but it's very interesting. It is a feature common to a lot of not Semitic languages of Ethiopia, so it might have been influence or contact resulted change from that, but it can also be something that was preserved only in these languages. It is very, very hard to tell. And of course, the aleph and the hey, yep, and the lateral sibilants th and t, which is actually probably an affricate and not a fricative. Everything clear so far? Hopefully. Yeah, sorry, it's a little bit complicated. Then in classical Ge'ez, the distinction of the laterals was lost, and also chet and chet maybe a few centuries later, but they also merged. Like, these are a little bit more preserved in writing, so the writing is a tiny bit more etymologically correct than with the scene, but it's still, there still is confusion, and these consonants are not, like today in modern recitations of Ge'ez, no one ever differentiates between kh and ha. It's all only ha. But we know this is a later feature because they both have letters and were originally separated. So, okay, Arabic is a little weirder and more diverse also. So just like in Ethio-Semitic, there is no p, it just changed into f. But in Arabic, we don't have the triads anymore that much. So like, for example, in the coronal stops, in the alveolar stops, we have ta and pa, and da and ba. Like, both the voiceless and the voiced have an emphatic counterpart. Does anyone want to say anything or ask anything about that? Because it's kind of weird.
Sorry, when you say that they're emphatic, what's the, I guess the exact manner of articulation? Are those, so this is like modern, or Arabic or
Yeah, this is essentially modern standard Arabic, the
okay.
common modern standard Arabic, like Fusha, regular Fusha outside of Egypt. Because Egypt does not have this j, it has g instead. Anyway, so when I say emphatic, that's a good question. In Arabic, usually it means velarized or uvularized or pharyngealized. Any one of the three, could be even more than one. And essentially it's denoted in IPA with this little ein after the consonant, which makes sense because it's kind of like it's considered to be pharyngealization, even and even denoted as pharyngealization, even if it is velarization and uvularization. I don't know why, but these consonants are connected somewhat to the pharyngeals in a way that they also trigger certain vowel changes and stuff like that. Okay, so is everything clear about Arabic? Arabic has this also interdental triad, but it's not the regular triad because the voiced one is emphatic, but the voiceless one, there is no voiceless emphatic. Probably used to be voiceless. That's what most people think. So there's tha and the and the emphatic va. Is everything clear so far? And there's also ghain, like other than chet, which exists also in Gez and in Akkadian, we have the voiced counterpart ghain, which both in Gez. Sorry, yes.
Oh, could you maybe compare that, show the previous slides? Because I think was it in Ethiopic or in maybe in Akkadian, there was supposed to be the triplet of coronals, you said? Is that as opposed to the doublets?
Both in the.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so Arabic has added one to the coronal set, the coronal stops.
Yes, exactly. That's true. And we know, since we can do the etymological comparison, we know that both this and this in Arabic come from laterals. So they are not really part of these triads. I hope that was clear. Also in Arabic, the quf is a little bit different and interesting. It's a uvular stop. It is not emphatic, but it is somewhat treated as an emphatic. Anything else about Arabic? I don't think so. Is everything clear? Also, it went through this g to j change, but as I said, this did not happen in large parts of Egypt. So it is thought to be a relatively recent shift. So this is not from Proto-Arabic like the p to f or Proto something else. This is something much later.
So the j is the original one?
No, the exact opposite. That's what I'm saying. The g is the original one because that's the one we find in all other Semitic languages, and the j was palatalized probably to be like the g was palatalized to be a j sometime in the last millennium, or maybe a little bit before that, but not a lot. So after already Arabic was written. And
what about the shift from qa to a?
I don't know at what time that shift is first attested. I would not be surprised to hear if it's quite old as well, not as old as the Getajo, but I don't know. But it has to be quite old because it's very, very widespread across different urban.
Because we also see it in biblical Aramaic.
Kuf to Aleph.
Alqa, al-a.
No, that's a little bit different. That's okay. So that is actually cognate with ard. Yeah, erzetu in Akkadian, eretz in Hebrew, and it's a different consonant which was in Old Aramaic rendered by kuf, and in Imperial Aramaic onwards rendered by ein. and already merged with ein probably, or with rein and then ein, we don't know. And there is one verse in Jeremiah which is really, really weird because it has both forms, which is really interesting. And that's a
So
nice.
it's Ein, not Aleph, my mistake.
Yes, sorry. But it's okay, no problem. We can learn only through mistakes. So anything else about Arabic or anything else about something, or we can move on. So the nicest, one can say, consonantal inventory can be found in modern South Arabian because it really preserves beautifully both the laterals and the interdentals as pretty much as we reconstruct them to Proto-Semitic. Also, the kuf is ejective. In general, the emphatics are ejective, but phonetically, they are also sometimes glottalized, creaky voiced, and or pharyngealized. And it varies a lot also between the emphatic consonants and between speakers and between the languages. So it's very, very complicated. But in general, I treat them as ejectives, and I'm not the only one. So any
Sorry,
questions?
what are
Yes.
the two lateral fricatives?
Yes.
What
Those are,
distinguishes them here?
the first one is the plain lateral fricative, sa, which is cognate with sin in Hebrew, sheen in Arabic. And the second one is which is cognate with tadi, 3 in Hebrew, or dad in Arabic. And another nice thing about mehri that we haven't seen in any of the other languages yet is that it has the same distinction of sin sheen that Northwest Semitic has. That means that this is samech, the first one is samech, and the second one is sheen. In Akkadian, it is similar, and in Phoenician it is similar, but they in these languages also sheen merged with the lateral, with sin. So it's a little bit more confusing, and here you can see the 3 different sheen, samech, sin. Yep. Very confusing. I'm really sorry. Is there any question, or do you want to break after all this? I hope that there isn't another language after this. Any question? Yes.
So in the fricative coronal, I guess the S with the dot, that should be the ejective S.
Yes, once again, it could be ejective. It could also be creaky voiced, pharyngealized, glottalized. I don't know how to pronounce this exactly, but it's in general an ejective fricative. Yes. Ejective fricatives are rarer than the ejective affricates, but they do exist. I don't know. Oh, but I forgot. It's just so beautiful that I forgot to add one thing that messes it up, which is the emphatic sheen. They also have this emphatic sheen in all of modern South Arabian. It usually comes etymologically either from tzadi or from palatalized kuf. So, yeah. Sorry about that. Anything else? Any other question or I don't know. Okay. And just to compare, these are the vowel systems. If any of you have studied in the European languages, I'm sure you know that they have much more complex and diverse vowel systems than these. Correct me if I'm wrong. So in Akkadian, we assume the existence of just 4 vowels, vowel phonemes, I, U, E, and A. It's really hard to tell, but that's what people think today, and I think it makes sense. In Arabic and classical Arabic or literary Arabic, we just have I, U, and A. But of course, in almost all, or maybe even all spoken Arabic dialects, there is also an allophone or a phoneme, O and E. I haven't explained what an allophone and a phoneme is yet. I'm sorry for the ones who still don't understand that. I will try to explain it in following lessons. It is a little bit complicated, but In general, what I mean by this is a phoneme is an important sound in a language and an allophone is a less important sound. So Tiberian Biblical Hebrew has a larger system with also just the two high mid vowels, A and O, the tzare and the cholam, and the two low mid vowels, the segol and the kamatz, the and O. That's at least how we reconstruct it. In modern South Arabian, it's almost exactly the same. Obviously, not the results of the same shifts and processes. And there is also a schwa there, which we do not reconstruct for Biblical Hebrew, ironically. And Amharic, and I think most, maybe even all Ethio-Semitic languages have this system pretty much, which is one low vowel A. Sometimes there's also a long one, A. And the three high mid vowels, A and schwa, and O. And the three high vowels, E, and what they actually refer to as the schwa, which is so this is, yeah, also very confusing. So in many books, you will find that these signs are, or that this phoneme is rendered by this sign, although this IPA is another phoneme. So it's very, very complicated. I'm really sorry about that. And the U, yeah. Is that clear? Is everything clear? Any question? Any?
So I guess this is leaving out the vowel length contrast. Like in Biblical Hebrew, at least there's a diacritic notation, right? You have patach and the short and long ah, right? That's not reflected in these tables.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
So I thought that in Biblical Hebrew and in Akkadian, there's a phonological distinction between short and long vowels.
In Akkadian and in classical Arabic, yeah. In Biblical Hebrew, I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
at least that's what I think.
Why do they have the diacritics? Like the Masoretic diacritics, I thought.
Which
Get
diacritic?
preserved. So like in, pointed vowels, pointing of the Hebrew Bible.
Yeah,
I thought that was meant to preserve the phonemic distinction in
that's
biblical
true.
times, short and long A. And
Well, it
no?
could have been short and long earlier, but when it was spelled out, there was no short long distinction. That's why Sadeh has a segol, but the segol is like a short vowel theoretically, or I don't know. Kamatz can be either a long vowel if it's kamatz gadol and a short vowel if it's kamatz katan. So all these short long differences are kind of, I think, and not just me, strange to the actual Masola, which is more of a quality difference, but it could definitely be from an earlier short long distinction, which is possible. In Akkadian, actually, there are three distinguished vowel lengths. They are rendered in writing usually by these are the short vowels, and a macron, like a line above the letter, that's a long vowel, and a circumflex, like a triangle, that is a contracted vowel. So a vowel that is long, but is also the result of a contraction. So not just the long vowel. Of course, this is very controversial and no one really knows. If anyone here wants to study it, I think it could be very interesting. And that was the end of that discussion, and we will move to the next one, which is kind of a continuation, I guess. So we'll talk a little bit more about the basic morphology of the Semitic languages, which is, of course, the most special and interesting thing about them. So morphology is the way we build words. So for example, from languages that I'm sure everyone here knows, if we We will have to take a forced break in about 10 minutes. That's okay. If we add re and build, like if we add the prefix re to the stem build, we can make the form rebuild, which means something a little bit different or some kind of compound of these meanings or something. I don't know, manageable, Süßigkeiten. Is this clear for everyone? Does everyone know what I'm talking about? So prefix comes before the stem, suffix comes after the stem. Okay, there's also like the general name is affix, which means something that you add either before or after, or sometimes in the middle, sometimes around, doesn't matter. Okay, I hope everything is clear. So in Semitic languages, the way we do this, as I've already said, is through non-concatenative morphology, which means like interwoven morphology. That's how we call it in Hebrew, and I think that's a nice name. So if we take the root, the abstract root, I hope everyone remembers that the root is an abstract concept. If we take the root paras and the abstract pattern ai, we can get Paris, which means it is cut in Akkadian, because this root means to cut, and this pattern means passive verbal adjective. I hope that's correct. If not, anyone can correct me, please. I hope that's clear as well. In Arabic, for example, if we take the root kataba and we add the pattern maf'al, we get the noun maktab. So the root means to write, and the pattern means a place usually, or sometimes. So it's a place you write. It's an office. Okay. I hope everything is clear. Third example is from modern Hebrew. If we take the root to be cold and we put it in a verb which is reflexive, like to do something on yourself, and in the first person singular, then hitkararti would mean I caught a cold. I became cold. Is everything good? Everything sure? Really? Okay. I'm happy to hear. So if we look at the patterns, or some of the patterns that are most common between the different languages, some nice examples would be the participle of the G stem. You can see that, or does anyone want to read? If not, that's also okay. So in Arabic, it's fa'il. That's the stem of the G participle. I call it the stem because it receives different affixes, usually to inflect it for number and gender. In Akkadian, Paris. In Aramaic, Atel or Hotel. Hebrew, Kotel. And Ge'ez, we don't have this as the actual participle in Ge'ez, unfortunately, but it appears as the ordinal for the numerals. So first, second, third. So third would be Salis, which is nice. Just like in Arabic, also Thalith, third. I don't remember if it's the same in Akkadian, probably not. Okay. Is everything clear? All right. If we convert it, if we inflect it to gender, to feminine, we can add the at or t suffix, which we can see in Arabic fa'ila or fa'ilatun. Akkadian, I don't know, parisht, parisat, depends on the environment. Aramaic, khotla, Hebrew, kotelet, and Ge'ez fa'ilt. So the feminine suffix is expressed by an a vowel or no a vowel and a t or no t. So in Hebrew, it's with an a. And if we look at the plural of the masculine, We see that in Arabic it's an una. This is of course a nominative. Una, the oblique is ina. In Akkadian, u, the oblique is e. And in Aramaic and Hebrew, it's in and im, which is kind of more like the oblique one, of course, in the other languages. Everything clear? We don't have this form either in Ge'ez because there is, well, another feature of South Semitic is what we call the broken plurals. And those exist in other Semitic languages or in all Semitic languages to some extent, but are much, much more common in South Semitic, in the area of South Semitic. And in some of the languages, it has gone to such an extent that the broken plurals have replaced these plurals, the suffix plurals, or essentially replaced them. Hope that was clear. Just an anecdote. And the plural feminine, again, at, in Aramaic an, which is interesting, and ot. Everything clear so far? Okay. Another nice form is the infinitive, but unfortunately, I was surprised to find out that we don't know it from that many languages as as an always infinitive. So it does occur in Arabic, but it's not that common, or in Aramaic also. But in Akkadian and in Biblical Hebrew, this is the only infinitive, or the regular infinitive. Parasu, katol. Arabic, there is the example of Vahab. There are other examples, but it's not that common. And in Aramaic, the only one I thought of was ktav, ktava, but I don't know. I'm sure there are other examples as well, but it's not that common. And the first inflecting form I want to talk about this time, sorry, is the imperative. So does anyone want to say anything about the imperative in Semitic languages? It's quite interesting, I think.
I mean, I think say, because in Akkadian, the first vowel is determined by the second vowel.
Mm-hmm.
And it also looks like in some of these other languages like Hebrew, that the first vowel is somehow reduced or inserted, that it seems like the Proto-Semitic form would have just been consonant 1, consonant 2, and then a vowel, consonant 3.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people think. Yeah.
And then Arabic does something similar, it just inserts a vowel in the beginning of the word.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there are these kind of complicated things where both Arabic, which has this, you write this epenthetic vowel, which is determined or usually determined by the other vowel, or Akkadian, they do sometimes have different vowels. Like for example, in Akkadian, there's also limad, learn, right? Anyone that knows Akkadian, please? Rikab, ride, or something, right? These are the regular imperatives. And in Arabic also there's like idhab, but in general it is uf'ul, if'il, and also in Akkadian, purus, piris, paras also. If there, I don't know, there is sabat, right? Is that true? I don't know. Sabat?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thanks. So anything else? It's true that we see this nice distinction between languages that have this cluster in the beginning and languages that don't.
I mean, these counterexamples like recab, I mean, those, I thought that those would represent something like an older paradigm.
Exactly. So that's the problem, that I can't really distinguish which is part of the older paradigm and which is part of the generalization of a cluster. But you're right. That's what I think your conclusion is correct, but people do argue upon this because it's a little bit complicated because of these special cases, or because of our will to try and reconstruct a more ancient paradigm, which we can never do in Semitic is in general